The story begins in the future, when Earth was no longer a place where humans could live, because by that time the planet had been completely destroyed. And the biggest reason behind that destruction was humanity itself. Because of people's carelessness, pollution on Earth had reached such an extreme level that the planet's entire weather and climate had completely changed. But the main cause of Earth's pollution was war. There was a time when countries around the world were constantly at war with each other. And because those wars continued for years, the bombs and chemical weapons used in them triggered reactions that completely destroyed everything, leaving no place on Earth where people could live anymore. As a result of Earth's condition, hundreds of millions of people across the world died. But even after that, the survivors, who were scattered across different places, all came together in one specific location. To save humanity, they joined forces and formed several groups. They selected a massive area, and every single one of them worked tirelessly day after day. They built a city there where they could live, and this was a highly advanced city. But after the city was completed, a massive wall was built around it. The wall was extremely tall and incredibly strong. The city also had a leader, and that leader's name was Evilian, who was in charge of everything there. Together with his people, Evilian provided the city with all the essential facilities, just like the ones we have in our normal world. In other words, just like on Earth, people had access to food, education, housing, healthcare, and all the other basic human needs. Everything was available there. However, the city had a few strict rules. And the most important one was that no one living there was allowed to leave the city. In other words, the giant wall surrounding the city was strictly off limits for everyone to cross. Then Evilian's people told everyone that there was no place to live outside the wall. And if anyone crossed the wall and went beyond the city, they would never be able to survive Earth's current climate. As a result, they would die immediately. That's why, out of fear for their lives, no one had ever dared to cross that wall. Evilian's people also told everyone that the people living in this city were the only humans still alive on Earth. There wasn't a single living person outside the city. Evilian and his entire team belonged to a separate, powerful group. Together, they created a set of very strict rules for every citizen in the city. For example, everyone in the city was constantly monitored through hologram surveillance. Because of that, no one could break the city's rules, even if they wanted to. No one could even cross the city's wall. Since they were being watched at all times, anyone who had ever tried to cross the wall was caught immediately. And if someone was caught trying to cross the city's wall, they were executed in front of everyone in the city. That was the punishment for breaking the city's rules. So no one ever found the courage to cross the wall. And just like that, many years passed. Everyone in the city continued living under those rules. Even now, they were still living inside those walls. Then we see a young man and a young woman standing together in one part of the city. The young man's name was Trace, and the young woman's name was Toby. They were in love with each other. The two of them were talking about the city. Trace said to Toby, "Ever since I was a kid, I've always wanted to see what's on the other side of that wall. Why do we have to stay trapped inside these walls? Sometimes I even wonder why we always have to live within these four walls. If we wanted to, we could slowly expand humanity across the entire planet. So why are we never allowed to go beyond that wall? You'll see. One day I'm definitely going to cross it. Will you be with me on this mission?" Toby agreed with Trace. She also wanted to cross that wall. She wanted to find out what was really out there. Was it true that no one else had survived on Earth? Or had they been lied to? Just as they were talking about all of this, a hologram display suddenly appeared in the middle of the city. The message said, "We ask everyone to follow the city's rules and regulations. If you break the rules and go near the city's wall or try to cross it, government officers will arrest you immediately, and you will be sentenced to death in front of the public." The truth is, this hologram message is played every single day in the city, because lately, more and more people have been trying to cross the wall. In fact, over the past few days, several people have already been caught by Evilian's team. So, to warn the rest of the citizens, the hologram message is shown every day. And today, they had once again caught a few people trying to cross the wall. As a result, everyone in the city was ordered to gather at a specific location. So Toby went there as well. Every citizen in the city had gathered there. Even Toby's boyfriend, Trace, was there. When Toby arrived, she ran into a woman named Johina. Johina had wanted to become the leader of the city for a long time. In other words, she wanted to take Evilian's place. But whenever the city held an election for a new leader, Johanna always ended up losing for one reason or another. Even so, she still hadn't given up on becoming the leader. A short time later, a criminal named Max was brought out in front of everyone. He had also tried to cross the city's wall. Evillian and all of her people were there as well. One of Evillian's team members asked the crowd, "What punishment should we give him?" Everyone shouted, "According to the city's laws, he deserves to die." The crowd kept yelling, although some people were against these rules. A few moments later, a man injected something into Max's neck. Right after that, he was shot and killed in front of everyone. Most of the people in the city actually enjoyed watching it. There was a reason they executed criminals in public. They wanted everyone else to see the consequences and be too afraid to break the rules. But Trace felt terrible about it, so he walked straight over to Evillian. The truth was, Evillian was his mother, but even as her son, he stood against her because he didn't believe these rules were right. Killing someone over such a small offense wasn't normal at all, but Evillian held too much power now. No one had the authority to stand against her, not even her own son. Evillian truly believed she was the queen of the city, and everyone else was nothing more than her subjects. After that, Trace and Toby met again at the same place in the city where they always met. Trace said to Toby, "Yesterday I tried my best to convince my mother to stop treating people like this, but she wouldn't listen to a single word I said. So now, I've made up my mind. I have to find out why we're not allowed to leave this city, and why do they keep killing innocent people like this?" As always, Toby agreed with Trace. She wanted to uncover the truth as well, but Toby said to Trace, "I want to join you on this mission too, but I'm really worried about my brother. No matter what, I have to get him out." The truth was, Toby's brother's name was Kolap, and for some reason, Evillian had locked him up in one of the city's prisons. So Trace decided that no matter what happened, he would rescue Kolap. He headed straight to the city's prison, where many people were being held captive. As he was secretly helping Kolap escape from the prison, a few of the guards spotted Trace. After Trace managed to bring Kolap out of the prison without being seen by everyone else, the guards rushed over and ordered both Trace and Kolap to stop right there. But before coming here, Trace had already made a plan, and he had already explained it to Kolap. As soon as he saw the guards, Trace shot Kolap, and Kolap immediately collapsed to the ground. The guards were pleased because they thought Trace had chosen to stand by his mother's side. They assumed he had angrily shot and killed Kolap, so the guards left the area. The moment they were gone, Kolap got back up. The whole thing had been an act, so the guards wouldn't suspect anything. Toby was there with them as well. After the guards left, the three of them got into one of the guards' vehicles and drove away. But suddenly, a young man noticed them on the road. That young man was Trace's friend, David. David had already found out about their plan to cross the city's wall, so he wanted to join them as well, even though Trace didn't want to take him along. But David blackmailed them. He said, "If you don't let me join your team, I'll tell Evillian and her people everything. And no matter how much Evillian is your mother, you already know what she's capable of when it comes to power. Now it's up to you whether you agree or not." After hearing that, Trace had no choice but to agree, so David got into the vehicle with them. A short time later, they arrived at a checkpoint. A young woman named Kristen was stationed there. She was one of Trace's closest friends, so Trace asked Kristen to help them get all of their gate passes approved. Thanks to Kristen, they made it through the checkpoint very easily. Not long after that, they all arrived at the wall. Kristen had come with them as well, because she was also part of their plan. Now, all of them were getting ready to cross the wall. They had brought all the equipment they needed to make the climb, but a secret this big couldn't stay hidden for long. Before long, Evillian's people found out that Trace and his friends were trying to cross the wall, so her entire team immediately got ready to capture them all. They rushed straight toward the wall. Meanwhile, Trace and the others attached special devices to their bodies. These devices would help them climb the wall. Soon, they all started climbing it together. Since they were using those climbing devices, they were able to leap upward with ease. They reached the top without much trouble, but at the top of the wall, there were several wires blocking their way. They had to get past them. As Kristen tried to cut the wires to clear a path, she was suddenly hit by a powerful electric shock and fell. They had no idea that the wires were carrying electricity. After that, the others tried several times, but every attempt ended with another electric shock. Meanwhile, Avilian's people had already arrived below. Now, they were trapped. There were live electrical wires above them, and Avilian's people below. They were stuck right in the middle of the wall. They had no idea what to do next. Because if Avilian's people caught them, they would be executed in front of everyone. At that point, Avilian's people opened fire on them. With no other choice, Trace and Toby immediately climbed back down. They took out the weapons they had brought and started firing back at Avilian's people. The weapons they had were extremely powerful. They had upgraded them with extra power themselves. So as they kept firing, the added power in their weapons set the enemy vehicles on fire. One by one, the vehicles were destroyed. At the same time, most of Avilian's people were killed. Meanwhile, the massive explosions caused the electrical power to surge through the wires. A few moments later, the power line feeding electricity to the wires on top of the wall was disconnected. The wires snapped apart, and the electricity was completely cut off. So the 5 of them quickly climbed back up onto the wall. By then, they couldn't see anyone below them anymore. As they stood there discussing their next move, one of Avilian's men suddenly appeared and shot Kristen. But there was nothing they could do for her now, because Kristen had already died. So they accepted the situation and moved forward together. Using their climbing devices, they slowly made their way down the other side of the wall. But once they reached the ground, they realized there wasn't a single person there. There weren't even any houses as far as the eye could see. Had Avilian been telling them the truth all along? To find out, they started exploring the area. They discovered that there was nothing there except a vast desert. That left all of them completely disappointed. Even so, they kept moving forward without giving up. After traveling a little farther, they came across a stream of red-colored water. A few moments later, it started to rain, and they saw that the rain itself was also red. They were all completely shocked. Their city was only a few miles away, yet the climate between the two places was completely different. They couldn't understand how that was possible. After walking a little farther, they found a place that looked safe enough to stay, so they went inside. But there wasn't a single person there either. After that, they quietly sat there. All of them were feeling disappointed. They had crossed the wall with so much hope, believing that there might be a new world waiting outside. A world where people had rebuilt civilization. But now, they couldn't help wondering if they had made a huge mistake by coming here. Still, there was no way for them to go back. So when the rain stopped, they started moving forward once again. But a short time later, several flying vehicles appeared in the sky. They belonged to Avilian's forces, and they were filled with her soldiers. The soldiers immediately opened fire on all of them. Trace and the others ran for their lives, while Avilian's people chased after them. After running for quite a while, they suddenly reached an invisible barrier. Beyond it was an unfamiliar road, and standing on that road were hundreds of soldiers. They were equipped with all kinds of advanced technology. They even had robotic soldiers. Seeing them, Trace and the others were completely stunned. One of the soldiers called Trace and his friends over. Meanwhile, Avilian's people, who had been chasing them, were wiped out along with their vehicles by the robotic soldiers. Trace and the others had no idea what was going on. Who were these people? Did that mean their theory had been right? Was humanity still alive across the world? The thought alone filled them with excitement. Just as they were about to introduce themselves, one of the soldiers stopped them. He told them that they already knew who they were. In fact, they had been waiting for them all this time, hoping for the day they would finally arrive. The soldiers then used a highly advanced device to transport them to a colony called Genetic Welfare. When Trace and his friends arrived there, they were amazed by everything they saw. They could hardly believe how advanced the world had become. Everything there was incredibly modern. The entire place looked as if they had traveled many years into the future. Everyone living there recognized them the moment they arrived. Then they were placed inside special chambers using a plasma globe. Inside those chambers, they were scanned and completely refreshed. As they entered the colony, they noticed that all of their clothes had been changed. They had been dressed in white uniform. As they stood there looking around, several video displays appeared in front of them. These video presentations had been created many years earlier. The videos explained that many years ago, pollution on Earth had become so severe that the planet was slowly becoming uninhabitable for humans. People also began developing many serious diseases. As a result, Earth's population started declining rapidly, and if things had continued that way, the planet would eventually have become completely devoid of human life. So after years of research, scientists came up with a solution. It was called DNA modification. At that time, scientists used advanced technology to modify the DNA of every person on Earth. Through this process, people became physically perfect from the inside out. As a result, their immune systems became much stronger, and pollution could no longer harm them. However, DNA modification also had many side effects. It made some people much stronger, while it made others much weaker. Those who became stronger gradually turned cold-hearted and ruthless. Their personalities changed completely. They began believing they were the strongest and most superior people. On the other hand, those who became weaker, meaning the more peaceful people, became so calm that they no longer felt motivated to do anything. They became extremely lazy. In other words, because of DNA modification, people slowly became divided into different categories. Some became peaceful, some became aggressive, and others became incredibly strong. As time went on, each person's children inherited the same category as their parents. Before long, conflicts between these different groups kept growing. Eventually, those conflicts turned into a global war, and it was that war that completely destroyed the entire planet. Because of the war, the scientists were unable to continue their DNA modification research. So, to protect the remaining population, they built small cities in different parts of the world. Then each city was sealed off behind massive, heavily fortified walls. In other words, the city where Trace and Toby had been living all this time wasn't actually built by Allegiant and her people. It had been built by these scientists so future generations could live there safely. At the same time, the scientists could continue their DNA modification research to eliminate its side effects and slowly restore Earth to what it once was. Trace and his friends finally learned the whole truth. Just then, a man named Matthew, who was one of the supervisors, arrived. He took all of them to another area, where they would be taught the rules and regulations of the colony. When they entered, they saw many other people there. They were just like Trace and Toby. They had also managed to cross the wall of their own cities. That was why they had been brought there to receive training. Everyone there was excited to see Trace and his friends, because they already knew about them. They had been waiting for the day they would finally join them. Matthew then introduced Trace and his friends to everyone. Meanwhile, we see Allegiant and her people. They were furious. After learning everything Trace had done, Allegiant became even more enraged. She ordered her team leader Mark to prepare for war. Meanwhile, Trace, Toby, and their friends continued exploring the colony. Everything there looked perfectly normal. But even so, something about the place felt suspicious to Trace and Toby, especially Trace. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. As Trace and Toby were talking about it, Matthew suddenly arrived. He told Toby that the colony's director needed to see her immediately, and that she had been summoned alone. Trace didn't want to let Toby go by herself, but there wasn't much they could do. After all, these people had saved their lives, given them shelter, and provided them with food, clothing, and a place to stay. So Toby went with Matthew to meet the director. The director's name was Tom. Tom was very happy to see Toby. Then he said, "We've all been waiting for you, because we need people like you. Your DNA is completely pure. If we continue our DNA modification research using your DNA, you won't suffer any side effects. On top of that, your DNA is incredibly strong. When all of you arrived here, your DNA was analyzed inside the plasma chamber. And out of everyone, you're the only person whose DNA is this powerful. With your help, we'll be able to continue our research. The truth is, you are the next generation born after DNA modification, so you should have inherited its genetic effects. But your DNA is completely normal, just like that of an ordinary human. In other words, even though you were born into the next generation, your DNA repaired itself. All we want to discover through our research is how your DNA managed to repair itself. If we can figure out that formula, we may be able to repair the DNA of everyone else as well." Then Toby learned from Tom that her mother had once worked with their team. Her mother had actually been born in this toxic environment. The people in this colony had saved her life. Later, she joined their research team. She truly believed that this experiment would one day succeed. Even though Toby still found the whole situation a little suspicious, Tom showed her some memories of her mother. After seeing them, Toby believed him. She thought to herself, if my help can save an entire generation, then what's the harm? So she agreed to take part in the research. After finishing her conversation with Tom, Toby went back to see Trace. She told him everything that had happened, including the fact that Tom wanted to use her for the research. But Trace didn't like the idea at all. He told Toby not to get involved in the research, but Toby tried to convince him. She said, this research is extremely important for everyone on Earth. It could save an entire generation. Besides, this was my mother's dream too. That's why I want to be part of it. After that, Trace stopped objecting. From then on, Toby spent most of her time working with Tom on the research. That became her daily routine. Meanwhile, Trace and one of his friends received military training every day. Because their DNA was extremely strong, it could absorb the military training very effectively. Meanwhile, two of Trace's other friends, Kolap and David, were assigned to monitor the entire city. Their job was to keep an eye on everything, from the weather to everything happening throughout the city. They were also assigned to monitor the city where they had once lived inside the wall. Using advanced technology, they could easily keep watch over it from where they were. Both of them found the job very interesting. Meanwhile, day after day, Trace and his partner, Lena, continued their military training. One by one, they mastered many advanced combat skills. They were already naturally strong, so it didn't take long for their training level to rise dramatically. They cleared every level of training with ease. One day, while Kolap was sitting in his control room monitoring the city, he saw Ivilian talking to Johanna. Johanna was the woman who wanted to become the city's leader. The two of them were arguing about several issues. The truth was, they both wanted to rule the city, so their argument became extremely intense. Eventually, they both declared war against each other. When Kolap saw that, he became very worried. He immediately ran to tell Trace that a massive war was about to break out in their city. Trace became deeply concerned. If a war started there, many innocent people could lose their lives. The city itself could even be destroyed, just like the rest of Earth had been destroyed. Trace immediately told Toby about what was happening, but Toby didn't seem to take it very seriously. Trace said to her, no matter what, you have to tell Director Tom. He's the one running everything here. After all, his people built those cities. I'm sure he can do something. And if you explain the situation to him, I'm certain he'll listen to you. You're a vital part of their research. Toby replied, okay, I'll try. But the truth was, she didn't seem very concerned about the situation. Then Toby said to Trace, I'll tell the director everything, but first I have to go with Director Tom to another location for a very important experiment. After that, I'll talk to him. Trace wasn't happy with Toby's attitude. She didn't seem to care enough about something this serious. She had never been like this before. Trace became deeply depressed because he loved Toby more than anything, and now it felt like she was slowly changing into someone else. After that, to clear his mind, Trace joined his military team on a rescue mission, hoping it would help keep him distracted. Using their advanced vehicles, they traveled together to a slum far away. The people there lived in extreme poverty and struggled every day just to survive. The mission was supposed to rescue them and bring them back to the colony. A short time later, they arrived at the slum. But once they got there, Trace discovered the shocking truth. They weren't there to rescue anyone. Instead, the soldiers abused the people and forcibly took their children away. The truth was, those children were sent to genetic welfare. Once they arrived there, every child's memory was completely erased. After that, they remembered nothing. Then Director Tom used them for his DNA modification research. This had been going on for years. When Trace learned the truth, he was completely shocked. He couldn't accept it. To him, it was wrong to take children away from their mothers just for experiments. It was cruel. At the same time, Trace started believing there were probably many more secrets hidden inside the colony, and he was determined to uncover them. So Trace gathered his friends together. Then he went to the control center where Kolap and David worked, and from there, he began monitoring their old city. That's when Trace discovered that Ivilian and Johanna's factions were preparing for a massive war. Both sides were arming themselves and getting ready for battle. Trace thought to himself, no matter what, I have to stop this war. So he decided to tell Toby the truth about everything that was happening. Ordinary people were forbidden from entering the director's area. But with the help of one of the employees, Trace secretly took the elevator to the director's research room. Fortunately, he found Toby there by herself. Trace said, Toby, you have no idea what's really happening here. None of these people are good. Their intentions aren't good. They torture people for the sake of their experiments. This place isn't what you think it is." But just then, Tom and his people walked in. They immediately tried to convince Toby that Trace was wrong. Tom told her, "Trace has misunderstood us. Yes, we do bring the children here, but we only perform DNA tests on them and then let them go. And if someone's DNA is like yours, we only continue our research with their permission." But Trace warned Toby not to believe Tom. He had seen everything himself. Even so, Toby refused to believe Trace. She felt that he had simply misunderstood the situation. Instead of listening to him, she chose to stay with Tom and move forward with the biggest deal of her life. Meanwhile, Matthew said to Trace, "If you distrust us that much, you can go back to your city. We'll personally take you there." Trace was heartbroken. He realized that maybe Toby didn't love him anymore. Otherwise, why wouldn't she believe him? He felt as though he had lost Toby forever, so he decided not to stay there anymore. He also refused to be part of the colony's wrongdoing, so he left with the military team, believing they were taking him back to his city. But while Trace was sitting inside the airship with Matthew secretly whispered, "Listen, Trace, they're not taking you back to your city. The only airship that can reach your city belongs to Tom. Your life is in danger." After saying that, Matthew walked away. Since Trace had reached one of the highest levels in the military, he immediately started fighting the soldiers inside the airship. The soldiers also tried to kill him, but Trace already had a very powerful weapon. Using both his weapon and his combat skills, he took down every soldier one by one. However, their fight damaged the airship. As a result, it crashed into the middle of a desert and was completely destroyed. Meanwhile, we see Toby and Tom. Tom had taken Toby to another location, one that was far more advanced than the colony itself. This was the place where major deals related to genetic experiments were made. Many important people had gathered there for a deal that day, and Toby was one of them. Tom introduced Toby to everyone there. But before long, Toby discovered the shocking truth about Tom. The people gathered there weren't there to discuss genetic experiment. Instead, Tom's people were making deals to sell the children they had kidnapped from the slums. After listening to Tom's conversation, Toby realized that everything Trace had told her was true. Tom wasn't a good person. Even so, Toby didn't say a single word. She didn't let Tom realize that she had begun to suspect him. Instead, she simply listened to everything he had to say. Meanwhile, we see Trace and Matthew. They had barely managed to escape from the wreckage of the destroyed airship. Trace was extremely worried because a war was about to break out in his city. Since Matthew was a genuinely good person, he gave Trace a gate pass that would allow him to enter his city. Matthew also revealed more information about Tom, explaining how dangerous he really was. He said that Tom would kill anyone to achieve his goals. But Trace wanted to return to his city first so he could stop the war. Before leaving, Trace told Matthew, "Go find Toby. Tell her that I left you behind after you were injured. Tell her I didn't even try to help you." Matthew did exactly that. He went straight to Toby and told her that Trace had abandoned him while he was injured. He even claimed that instead of helping him, Trace had beaten him and left him there. But as soon as Toby heard that, she understood Trace's plan. She knew that Trace would never abandon an injured person. A little later, when Tom stepped away for a moment, Matthew quietly told Toby, "Trace needs your help." Toby immediately went to see her brother, Kolap, who was responsible for monitoring their city. She told Kolap to contact the city's leader no matter what. In other words, she wanted him to contact Evillian. She wanted Evillian to know that her son was in serious danger and that she needed to send her team to rescue him. Meanwhile, we see Trace. He was in terrible condition. Even so, he kept moving slowly toward his city. But after reaching a certain point, his condition became much worse, so he quietly sat down to rest. Just then, Evillian arrived with her people. They took Trace back to the city with them. After Trace recovered a little, he said to his mother, "I've learned the truth, Mom. Director Tom is behind everything. But why are you about to start a war against our own city? A lot of innocent people will die." But just like always, Evillian refused to listen to her son's words and simply walked away. Trace was furious. He tried to leave the area, but Evillian's people stopped him, so he started fighting them. But there were simply too many soldiers, and Trace couldn't overpower them. In the end, Evillian's people locked him up in prison. Meanwhile, when Toby learned about everything that had happened, she felt overwhelmed with guilt. She realized that if she had listened to Trace earlier, he might not have ended up in this situation. Now, she knew she had to find a way to save him, so she went straight to Tom and demanded that he stop everything he was doing. But Tom refused to listen to a single word. So Toby secretly boarded one of Tom's airships. She took control of the airship and headed toward their city. Kolap and Lena joined her on the mission. By then, Tom had already discovered what Toby was doing, so he sent his people after them. However, the airship Toby stole was Tom's personal airship. The invisible barrier surrounding the colony could only be crossed by Tom's airship, so Toby and the others passed through it without any trouble. Tom's people, on the other hand, were flying ordinary airship. They couldn't get past the barrier. Meanwhile, Toby and her team finally reached their city, but by then, the war between Avilian and Johanna was just about to begin. To guarantee her victory, Avilian planned to use a special gas. If people inhaled it, all of their memories would be erased. As a result, everyone would forget about the war, allowing Avilian to win effortlessly. But the person who would benefit the most from this plan was Tom, because if most of the city's people lost their memories, Tom could take them away and use them for his experiments. After entering the city, Toby and Lena fully prepared for their mission. Carrying powerful weapons and advanced devices, they headed straight to rescue Trace. But many of Avilian's soldiers stood in their way and tried to stop them. Using their advanced weapons and technology, Toby and Lena defeated the soldiers and finally reached Trace. Trace was overjoyed to see them both. After that, Lena and Toby rescued Trace and escaped with him. Meanwhile, one of Avilian's men, whose name was Peter, kept urging Avilian to release the gas throughout the city. The truth was, Peter was one of Tom's spies. He had been working for Avilian as well. Even so, Avilian was still hesitating to release the gas. But after Peter kept pressuring her, just as Avilian was about to release it, Trace and Toby arrived. Together, they told Avilian about Tom's real plan. They explained that once the gas erased everyone's memories, Tom would capture them all. Even her own child could become a victim. They asked her if she could truly accept that as a mother. Trace kept trying to reach his mother through her emotion. Just as Avilian began to give in, Peter suddenly shot her. Then he pressed the button himself, releasing the gas. The gas immediately began spreading throughout the entire city. Meanwhile, when Kolap saw what was happening, he started using Tom's airship technology to search for a way to stop the gas. Tom was watching everything unfold. Soon, the gas had spread across the entire city. It was even reaching Peter's lab through the underground system. But Peter had no idea how to stop the gas. Now he became terrified that he would lose his own memories, so he unlocked the doors, hoping Trace and Toby could do something. Toby immediately started searching for the gas's main source. She soon discovered that it was coming from deep inside an underground tunnel, so Trace quickly headed down into the tunnel. Meanwhile, Tom tried to stop Toby. The truth was, Tom controlled everything in that facility. He created one illusion after another to distract her. He even used different devices to try to kill her. But Toby had completed intense training at genetic welfare. Because of that, she easily overcame every illusion placed in her way. Tom couldn't figure out what kind of trap could possibly stop her. Eventually, Toby reached the main source of the gas, where it was being released. Without wasting a single second, she used her powerful weapon to fire directly at the machine, destroying it. The moment it was destroyed, the gas stopped being released. The gas that had already spread slowly dispersed into the air, causing no harm to anyone. The people of the city were finally safe. Then Toby went to the city's hologram broadcast system. She addressed everyone in the city, saying, "A few of us crossed the wall and we learned the truth about the world today." She then revealed everything they had discovered. She also exposed Tom's actions to everyone. Finally, she said, "The city we're living in now is the safest place we have left. So instead of fighting for power, we need to stand together and live in unity. We should help one another through every hardship. And if we remain united, we'll eventually find a way to restore the entire planet little by little. A world with no more walls, where every walled city across the earth will become one. Together, we can rebuild a new world filled with peace, hope, and happiness."